Welcome again, everyone, to Doing It for Retention, the podcast, now more often hosted by me, Rohan, than Luke. But I am joined today by Sarah or Sara. Probably should have asked before I jumped into the call, actually.
Sara.
Sara, who is the head of CS at Antivo and a member of the Women in Customer Success community as well. So, welcome to the podcast, Sarah.
Thank you, Rohan. Happy to be here.
Yeah, we got there in the end. So, I guess I want to touch on two things today. You posted out a piece of content a couple of weeks, maybe a month or so ago, that I think really resonated with me specifically, and I think will be really relevant to the world of customer success. And it was really about how to get more interviews. Um, and what's interesting is you're in the CS community as a member of Women in CS. You've worked as a CSM. I'm sure you've interviewed and been interviewed,
Yeah.
and you're now a hiring manager. So I think it's fair to say your perspective on this is pretty valid. Um, so as much as I can preach about it, I actually think hearing it from you is where the value comes from. So I've got the content, I've got the post over here on a separate screen, which I'll kind of talk to. But candidly, I'm just going to touch on the points you mentioned
Mhm.
and just get your thoughts on it. But before we dive into like what got you into customer success, like a bigger picture, what brought you into the world of customer success and what do you love about it now?
Yeah, well, my career actually started in sales, so I'm coming from the dark side. But then I moved into customer success just because I think everybody really wanted to have deeper relationships with the customers, and I really enjoyed spending more time and more problem solving with them and strategizing. I really love our product and I love the industry, work in loyalty program management, and I'm really passionate. So for me, the strategic part and being able to help customers more into the specific was really relevant. And now, yeah, I love, we have a very enterprise client base. So I love visiting customers in person. I love having that more humans first kind of mentality whenever it comes to customers, but also to the team. And then, well, I'm coming from sales, so obviously I love a little bit of commercial conversation, and that keeps I keep it in CS as well. So I think that's what's really keeping me here.
Right. And the CS versus commercial is interesting that you've come from sales. Like I think that's always an interesting dynamic. I personally think it has real value, having that kind of sales savviness, and I'm sure you
Yeah.
would voice that. Um, what's your stance on where customer success goes? There's a lot of to and fro on do they own commercial accountability? Do they not? Is customer success glorified account management? Is it not? Like where do you sit on the current topics and the evolution of what customer success may or may not be?
Yeah, for me, customer success is absolutely a commercial role. Mostly because, I mean, a customer success manager is a person building the relationship with the customer and also helping them in making sure that they reach their goals. So it's the best person really to actually bring up also commercial conversation and say, look at all of the amazing results we achieved. Now actually time to pay up. So I think it's perfect. I don't necessarily think that there is anything wrong with separating customer success and account managers or account executives, however you want to call them. I just think that because of the relationship, it's probably better to have customer success doing it. That being said, it depends also a lot on how the renewal process or how the upselling process looks like. Just because you can't have one person that is an expert at literally everything that they do. So you can't have one person that is good at strategizing in the industry, that is good at the product, that is great at training, that is great at commercial conversation all in one. So if it's more of a longer process for the renewal or for the upsell that is taking months. Okay, probably customer success is not the best person to handle that because that's not necessarily where they generate the most value. But I am a big fan of keeping it in under customer success, even because I think it's a good incentive for the teams of like, I've built this relationship, I've built this result together with my customer. Now I kind of want to get commission on it.
I think that's fair. You know, like you said, it's a lot of effort goes into creating a really, really positive customer relationship and instilling, identifying, securing value as part of that partnership. So yeah, I guess it is only fair that the person that's done a good proportion of that work sees the commercial return on it.
Yeah,
But like you said, if the renewal phase, if the contract phase is quite administratively intensive, do you want your CSM pulled into the weeds of that, where, as you said, they're not apply they're not applying as much value as they could do there. So absolutely
yeah.
makes sense. Okay, cool.
Exactly. Depends also on account portfolio, If you're managing, like for us, our enterprise customer success managers, they manage 10, 12, 15 accounts maximum. So that is manageable. But if you're handling hundreds, obviously you can't spend 3 months negotiating a contract. It's just insane.
It's a lot of time spent where it could be spent elsewhere. Cool. Okay. Um, so kind of touching on on the post you put out, then I've got it on a
Yeah.
little side screen to here, and you know, it was very straight to the point, which I really liked. Trying to land more interviews. Here are the top mistakes I keep seeing and how to avoid them. Spot on. It's the stuff we try and talk about and share, but people don't want to hear it from recruiters because we talk about it too much. So here's a hiring manager who's been interviewed, who's been through interviews, sharing their expertise. And all I'm going to do is kind of go through the bullets and I guess just let you expand on what you've seen, I
Yeah.
guess how you interpret that, because like a message, an application, a CV, in my mind, is part of the interview process effectively. The minute you're exposed to this individual, they're in an interview process. Now, whether you actually speak to them face to face or not is down to how well they do here. So
Yeah.
these are really, really relevant points. Um, so the first one is typos. um, Typos scream, I don't pay attention to details. There are tons of tools to spell check. And you even name dropped Grammarly as your personal favorite and it being free. So I guess kind of talk me through your experience of typos and kind of what it suggests to you as a candidate.
Yeah, I think, there are a lot of CVs with a lot of texts. And first of all, it's not when there is a lot of text, it's not one thing that I love. I love a clean bullet point. Help me read it. I don't want to read War and Peace, otherwise I'd be reading a book, not CVs. So help me out. And also, grammar and not having any typos in there really shows me that actually you didn't just scrap something together, but you actually thought about what you're doing. Because if you make typos in your CVs, then that happens also in emails and documentation and presentations that you're going to send out. And that is a clear indication of someone who is not necessarily too dedicated or too precise and attentive to detail. So it's not something I want to see in a CV because it's literally your business card at that point. It's your first introduction to the business, as you said, right? It's the first step of the interview process. So typos are a big no-no for me. Um,
Really interesting.
it's
And
just,
that actually ties on, you mentioned it, because the next one is bad formatting,
yeah,
which I guess is a bit of a knock-on effect with attention to detail. But you've got misaligned text, images of different sizes, inconsistent fonts, and then you put chaos in stars. So we'll probably come on to that. But yeah,
yeah.
again, when you see that, what is that telling you about the potential candidate?
Yeah, I think my team hates me sometimes because I am a little bit of I am very into formatting. So when someone has one line starting here and the next line starting here is like, are you not seeing that? Like, how do you not see that? Or different fonts. Again, it's infuriating. It means also that you're copy pasting. So there is nothing bad about copying. One of my previous managers told me something that I've always kept in my mind as I'm going through. That is like, it's better to be good at copying than creating badly. And honestly, that's really true, but you need to be good at copying. You don't just copy paste and not reformat things. So again, I think it speaks to the carelessness and just being able to see what good and professional looks like. Because if you're not, again, able to create a good CV, a good formatted CV, those things go into presentations, and then I'm gonna need to go crazy and say, oh, this is not the standard that we really want to have in the company. And again, me being very precise and attentive to detail, that's not necessarily something that I want to work on.
How do you feel? A double question. How do you feel about personal pictures on CVs, either like a headshot or a mugshot? Um, and the second one is, how do you feel about, I'm going to call them form CVs as opposed to function CVs, i.e., kind of quite expressive borders, imagery, and I'm not talking
Hmm.
pictures, but almost using a bit of kind of imagery and layout to make it look more presentable, but it might not necessarily benefit the function of the CV.
Yeah, pictures like your picture in a CV, I think, it could help sometimes, but just to see who is in front of you, but it's more like an old thing to do. It's not very much into nowadays how CVs are structured, mostly because, again, we all know discrimination and etc. So you don't necessarily want to have your picture in there in the first place. But again, if you need to have a picture, please don't take a selfie in your car or your graduation picture where you're still 12 basically. So try to at least have a picture with a very neutral background, or at least a fair, it doesn't need to necessarily to be even a white wall, it can be a brick wall, but something more wall. Just simply because, again, it showcases who you are as a person and how seriously you're taking building your CV. um, for more designed kind of CVs, I don't necessarily mind. I like a good designed CV, but again, I need to also speak a little bit more about the position. Like, great that you love design, great that you had fun with Canva, but also I'm hiring for CSMs, so I'm not hiring for a graphic designer. For graphic designer, hey, you go and get it. But for a more commercial, traditional role, if you want it to say that way, I don't think it necessarily speaks to the role as much as you want it to. Because again, the CV is like it is your business card, so you can't. It needs to speak to the role that you're applying to. If you're applying to a creative job, sure. If you're applying to a very old corporate company, okay, great, go with Microsoft Word and basically a bullet point list. But if you're applying for a more startup-y and a commercial role, the CV needs to be easy. It needs to be snappy, just like you're gonna be on calls.
And that probably leads on to the next bit. So there's two bits here. So firstly, you've got missing key info, and you've put LinkedIn, phone number, your location. So when you get a CV through, how many of them will you check out on LinkedIn?
All of them, to be honest.
Yeah.
I want to see what they're doing on LinkedIn. Um, and I think, missing on these details is like, how am I going to let's say that I really like you, I really like your CV, but how do I call you? How do I get in touch with you? You're not giving me the chance to get in touch with you if you're forgetting these things. And I do want to check their LinkedIn to see if they're posting, if they're not posting, what are they doing, if they have recommendations, for example, in there. So I am interested. If I like a CV, I will definitely check. I will definitely check their LinkedIn.
Yeah, I did a poll a little while back now, and I think basically 3 out of 4 hiring managers or talent personnel will check out LinkedIn as a point of reference. And I think if you took a wider stat, it's pretty higher than that. But LinkedIn is a very, it's effectively your personal profile page, your professional profile page.
Yeah,
It's supplementary, if not very, very, very close second to your CV anyway by
yeah.
default. So you heard it not here first, folks, but make sure your LinkedIn is up to scratch. Is there anything if you see on LinkedIn that puts you off? Is there any not red flags? I think that's probably a bit critical, but are there any flags that if you see on LinkedIn you might have some reservation?
Um, No, not necessarily, to be honest. I think I'm mostly looking at what kind of posts they're following, what kind of people they're following, if they have any job description, if it matches the one that they have on their CV, because sometimes it
Hmm.
doesn't.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, no, I'm mostly looking just in general, who is this person? Let's get to know them a little bit better. I'm very interested to see if they are posting and the content that they publish or what they like. Just simply to get more, because you can do customers, especially in customer success, you can do customer success in very different ways. So it's not just about what's written on the CV, but it's also what has been your approach to customer success so far. And based on what you post, based on what you like, I get a little bit of a better understanding of what kind of customer success you're used to run at least.
Can you find from your experience, because obviously I spend a lot of time looking at customer success manager profiles. Um, in your experience, do you feel you see enough active customer success managers or people in adjacent roles being active and posting on LinkedIn? I obviously make quite a lot of effort to post, um, and I would say I'd say at most 50% of CSMs I'm engaged with are active on LinkedIn in terms of posting. They might like the odd bit, but I don't see content being put out by them. What's your kind of steer on that or take on that?
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of people don't necessarily post. Some people even have like less than 500 connections on LinkedIn sometimes, which again tells me they're not necessarily using it too much, which is completely fine. Like it's not a red flag or anything. It's just getting the bigger picture on who this person is.
Mhm.
But again, if they're not posting, it's completely fine. I'm not just, honestly, I think none of my team members actually post anything on LinkedIn except for
And no
like
criticism
company
of anyone.
news,
Yeah.
which is fine. Again, I don't think it's a red flag. It's just me wanting to understand this person better ahead
Yeah.
of the interview.
Yeah. Cool. The next one's really cool. So this is all about the actual content of the CV.
Hmm.
And the first one is you want results instead of responsibilities. Um, Now, you put three bullets on there, but if we were to take your hiring, you need your next enterprise CSM in your team. What stuff would you want to see on this CV that's going to tell you that this person is relevant to the role in terms of their job, their most recent role? Like, what stuff would you want to see in these bullets or in the summary?
Yeah, absolutely. I think definitely a number of accounts that they manage, because for me it's really important because we have white glove treatment. So I want to know that it's not 500,000. Then what I want to see is the average contract value, because I need to see that they're not paying 5K, but they're paying a lot more than that, because it's a very different relationship. The other thing I want to see is what the NRR for their portfolio was, just to see in terms of retention, the percentage of upsell that they did, as well, in terms of I increased my portfolio by X percent. Um, I think those are the main ones, but then you can go also more granular on like NPS. You can also go more granular on what type of engagement you had. And, it literally is three words. Is it like low touch, high touch? And then that can be an easy peasy bullet point. You can expand a little bit more on that, but generally it can be a very easy point. And the next thing is probably what is your typical contact person? Are you talking usually with C-level at your customers? Or are you talking with heads off? Are you talking with directors? What are you talking with?
So, how many bullets do you think is fair? So, if we take someone's most recent role, they've been there for a couple of years. How many bullets is not enough, just writing too many in terms of getting information across and you losing interest in reading the bullets?
Mm, I think between 5 and 7 is a good ratio. It's not too much, and it's not too little. So it is also based on what you put in there. It also shows your understanding of what value you generate. Um, Random example for me, advocacy is really important. It's a very important metric for my team. So if somebody for any reason decides to put how many case studies they have published with their portfolio. For me, that's great. But again, that's a me thing. I understand that. So obviously, you're not gonna find this on any CV. But it also shows what kind of metrics you were working towards, what was important for you, what is your understanding of the value that you generated based on what you select, because there are 10,000 metrics that you can select.
And that's really important as well. If you are applying for a job, um, and you can see the job spec and you can see the measurements are customer advocacy, do you understand your stats, your performance, or do you have case studies where you can therefore update your CV ever so slightly? So almost
Yeah,
have like a pick and mix solution of your key performance metrics, and
yeah,
then allocate or choose the ones most relevant to the role you're applying for. If it was a role with yourself, then make sure advocacy or case studies are on there because that's going to score points with you. If that's less important, if NPS is a big focus, then have those equivalent. And then on what is optimal, you've then got how long should a CV, should a resume be? Um, how long should a CV be?
my opinion, 1 page. Two is already a little bit too much. Three is a no-go. Absolutely not. I'm not reading that. Even because I think it speaks to, summarizing skills. You need to be able to summarize and you need to be able to pick really relevant events in your career. If at 16 you were a waiter or a waitress, I don't necessarily need to know. It's fine. Just like your hobbies, there are some candidates that sometimes put their hobbies in there of like, I like to bake and I like to go to the gym and travel. Great. How does that help your candidacy? Use that space a little bit better. You don't have a lot of space, so make it count. Make sure that the experiences that you have in there, you don't need to have necessarily bullet points for every single job if it's not relevant. It's okay to take a career break. It's okay that you were made redundant and for a period of time you just took what was there and just to, get to the end of the month. It's completely okay. But you don't need to list all of the bullet points in there. You just let it go and list them where they count.
Because it seems clear. And the hobbies is an interesting one because we'll often look at hobbies as a way to gauge focus. If someone's played some professional sports, for example, if someone has done ultra marathons, if someone has reached a certain level of credibility success within any hobby given thing, we see that as I guess it complements sales, for example. If someone has worked very hard to achieve a certain outcome and
Yeah,
they can transfer that to driving customer outcome, driving sales success, then that's something we'll often look for, understand. And it's not a make or break, but I think it shows that what I do in work is something that I look to mirror outside of work. Would you suggest people include things like that within there to, I guess, bolster the 360 image of what they're about?
to be honest, I don't find it very relevant. It's something that we can cover in the interview. Also because it's again, as you say, it's not a make or break deal. It's not like if you don't haven't played any sports, I'm never gonna call you. Fine, you played sports. Great. You showed commitment. Very good for you. But also sometimes, being committed to necessarily a sport or a specific activity and showcasing that level of proficiency doesn't necessarily reflect in your professional life. So I'm not sure that it's necessarily relevant based on my experience. I'm happy to be proven wrong. Absolutely.
No, I mean, I think there are cases for and cases against, right? There is no perfect CV. There probably is if you really dive into it. I'm sure there is a ideal CV somewhere, but not everyone's going to like you said. You are a big fan of customer advocacy, so if someone's got case study links, for example, that's going to win points of view. And some people might really, really value pursuing an extracurricular activity because it really aligns with what they see as valuable to them. So yeah,
Yeah.
there is no perfect answer. It's just good to get a bit of perspective.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's really interesting. I think we've kind of got like, admittedly, I've just run through what you've done and just got you to expand on it, but short CV, facts and numbers, um, get rid of your pictures, don't make it too fancy, use the space effectively, don't worry too much about your hobbies, and I think that's it. Is keep it and 5 to 7 bullets per role, and you don't need every job on there. That's
Yeah.
that is how you win over Sarah, and then get a chance to speak to her in theory.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And again, it depends always who reads the CV.
Yeah.
And as also, I think one important thing to say is that it depends on the country you're in. I had a chat with one of my friends. I'm from Italy, and I had a chat with one of my friends, and he's in HR, and we exchanged our CVs just to have a look, and it was completely different. I told him I don't think I would ever hire you with this CV. I wouldn't even call you. And he's like, I wouldn't call you with your CV because it's completely different structures. But again, I think it's also, understanding the country that you're in and what the country expects and what is your competition like in a specific market.
I guess, and we're UK based, and the UK market, certainly in CS and sales, is pretty competitive at the moment. So the standouts are a lot of the things you touched on, which is why I think my stance
Yeah.
matches yours, which is role relevance, industry relevance, sector relevance, performance relevance. Like you need to show that you are as aligned to this role as possible, because that is what's going to excite me about you. And you also need to have a bit of personality there, albeit that will shine through more when it comes to the interview itself. How do you feel about um, I guess digital messages, so things such as video notes, voice notes,
Mhm.
or something to follow up the application or the message they've sent you.
I think it's a very nice touch, but when you get to 100 or plus LinkedIn messages, you start to say, okay, this is annoying. Being very transparent. So I found a few messages, I do read them. I try to read them all and try to see if there is anything really piques my attention. I think there was a lady at some point that sent me a video of like this is how I think the first interview with you could go, and she asked herself question and answered the questions, which I found really funny, and it also showcased like a little bit of understanding of like what I really cared about and initiative, creativity, thinking a little bit outside the box. So I did call her. We did have an interview. Yeah, I think it's about how you make it special. Of not like, hey, I just applied online. I hope you're gonna call me, but try to make it a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, I get bunches of those too, and I get it's frustrating because I guess it just adds to your workload as opposed to take away. You know, you are
Yeah,
one person with as many hours a day as everyone else. And I'm sure as much as you love the world of recruitment, it's only a very, very small part of your working day. And
yeah,
it's my full-time job. And I find it can be a lot. So I guess to anyone listening, bear that in mind. You are one of 100 messages, so make it land, make it count, and make it
exactly.
relevant.
No, absolutely.
Cool. Awesome. I mean, that's awesome. That's really useful stuff. And I want to take a chance to, I guess, speak to you about women in CS. So it's a
Mm.
community we know quite well. We've had lots of conversations with them, connected to lots of them, and it's an awesome community. What I guess what brought you to women in CS? What at which point did you find them and join them as a mentor and a member of?
I think it was, I want to say last year, beginning of last year, when Maria actually launched it. And I immediately joined because I had a couple of mentors in my career and I really loved working with them. I am so grateful that they took the time to teach me and actually make me think about what was the best outcome and not just tell me what to do. So I really love that. And I am always looking, because I came from sales at the beginning, I was also always looking for some mentors to try and say, okay, what do I need to do with customer success? What are the best practices? What do I need to follow? What are the rules in here in this new world? Um, so I tried and I got immediately I got two mentees to help out, and it was one of the most fulfilling experiences that I've ever had. Um, I'm still continuing, and I do have other mentees, but I still remember my first two. It was one CSM and one head. We recently made a new head of customer success, with whom I could very much empathize, because I'm like, girl, I've been there too. Like having no processes, no tools, nothing. So I'm like, girl, I get you. Don't worry. We're fine. We're gonna get through this. So it was really, really. It's always really beautiful to help, and honestly I can learn. I do learn. I am a mentor, but I do learn all the time from my mentees as well, about new challenges that they're facing, but also about how different customer success organizations can work. So I do even constantly learn myself about new things.
If there's someone
Sorry,
that's
that was my dog.
maybe, no, that's okay. Mine's locked out of the room, so I'll probably deal with that a bit later. I'm sure she's lying right outside the door waiting for me because it is approaching time to take her out for a run. So we'll see how that goes. Um, if someone's perhaps on the fence, so they're aware of women in customer success, but maybe unsure as to why would I join, what are the benefits, and even how, like, what would you say to someone that is aware of you guys, but doesn't know what it entails or what the value is there?
Yeah, I think I would say that it's really beautiful to have women supporting women, and that it's a real community. So I really love the fact that you can connect with different people. And again, most of the people work, I think if not all, work for free. So it doesn't even have a cost that you need to pay up front. And you get to meet this, you also get to select your own mentor, so that you can really find the perfect fit. And there are mentors that are there for not just customer success, but also how as a woman in tech you can leave your maternity or etc. So there is definitely no off limit topics. And it's really good for growth and for the community building. So join now. Not an
Yeah,
ad.
well, I will absolutely. Yeah, no, I will. No shameless plug here. We'll put a post out. We'll share this, and if anyone is watching this, then we'll make sure that the link to Women in CS and any relevant pages is included, and continue to
Yeah,
grow the community. Cool,
great.
awesome. That's all the formal stuff. Now, I always try and ask a question, and it's nothing too complicated, but it is one to put you on the spot. So, if you could immediately master any one given skill, and it can be a professional skill, it could be something personal, it could be something completely useless outside of the workplace, what would you like to master?
As of right now, um, something like carpentry, mostly because we just bought our first place and we're building everything, and it's really difficult. I am very ashamed to say, I think it took us like 5 hours to just put on the curtains from IKEA. So, um, yeah. So at the moment, that's the one skill I need really in my personal life. Um,
And that's
in
something more professionally aligned, something in
Yeah.
the workplace that you'd really love to just have under.
In professional life, I think you can never have too much on influencing others. And in customer success, it's really fundamental to be able to influence others. So I don't think I'm terrible at it. I just think that everybody can still learn and explore a little bit more, because we get to operate across so many different departments, so many different teams, and they all speak their own language, like engineering and product. It's very different language from the one we talk. So having the ability to navigate all of this conversation and actually influence people, and making sure that our voices are heard, even more than they are right now, is always a good thing.
Cool. Is there anything but podcast content that you recommend that just helps with, I guess, improving, optimizing your skills when it comes to engaging different decision makers, different stakeholders, and influencing them?
Um, Not that comes to mind. I have one for employees instead of managing peers, and that is Radical Candor, and that I'm reading right now, that I'm really really loving.
I think I've got that somewhere. Yeah, it's in my
Yeah,
book of
that
to
one's good.
reads.
Yeah, that one is really really good. The main concept is, again, give feedback right away, and don't be candid, but be specific. be candid and be specific. So because that's the only way feedback actually makes an impact. Otherwise, negative, especially negative feedback without context and without details, is just mean. So if I don't show you how to grow, it's just mean.
Yeah, agreed. I think it was something that was fed back to me just really refine my approach to delivering feedback. I can be maybe a bit too blunt at times, and it's said with love, um, but just not quite positioned the right way sometimes. Always room to improve. Cool, awesome. I mean, that's kind of it. Honestly, super interesting, both from a women in CS perspective, and I'll make sure that we link to that when we get these posts out, and just to get your thoughts as an applicant recipient on kind of what would excite you, what wouldn't, what you'd like to see, and importantly the reasons why. So that stuff we'll share out, and hopefully the our wonderful audience will start picking up on that, and it will improve people's chances of getting through the interview process and just hopefully helping people get the jobs they're looking for.
Yeah, I hope the same. I hope somebody finds this conversation very helpful and that it helps them land a new job.